the third generation, the grandkids, usually squander it all because they're too far away and they've only seen the good times,
Yeah.
but they don't really have the work ethic or kind of the traits that the initial person that created the wealth has, because it hasn't been passed down correctly through
Yeah.
the generations. So that's another good thing about foundations. It's all about legacy. So you should be doing at least an annual retreat with the family to talk about the portfolio, the investments, the community good. What are you doing to better yourselves as a family, as a community, for charity? But generally speaking, those are the times where you're transferring your perspective and your knowledge to the future generations.
Hey there, do you want to skip the trial and error in real estate investing? Visit my website, dwanderful.com. I will show you how to do double your income in no time at all. A broke single mom fired from Denny's becomes America's most sought after real estate investor. How does that happen? Well, that's me, Dwan Benton Twyford, aka Dwanderful. But it doesn't stop there. I, along with some amazing guests, are going to teach you everything there is to know about investing. Listen, success is not exclusive. I can teach you, you can have it too. I can share with you. So I want you to join me for season 5 of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. Cheers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I'm your host, Dwan Benton Twyford. I'm America's most sought after real estate investor. And I'm so excited to bring you another episode of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. If you're new to Dwanderful, our motto here is people before profits. So if it resonates with you, you're at the right place. I'm your girl. You can also go to Dwanderful, DWANDERFUL, Dwanderful.com. Opt in, and I have some free ebooks for you. I took my name, Dwan and Wonderful, and I made a new word. So that's how we became Dwanderful. And as you can see, I have one of my wicked smart dudes on here today. So we have Casey Chohan. How are you today? Say it right.
You did say it right. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
I'm excited to have you on here today because I don't know a whole lot about you. So I'm excited to learn what you're all about, Casey. So we basically just throw our guests straight up into the wolves. And so what I have you do is just tell us in like a sentence what you do, how to find you on social media, and then we're just going to ask questions and see how you became to be the wild and famous Casey.
All right. Yeah. So we'll start with the social media stuff, get that out of the way with. So Together CFO is the name of the company, and we help high net worth individuals, business owners save money on taxes and create a lasting legacy, protecting assets, eliminating capital gains. It all pairs really well with real estate and real estate professionals. So it's going to be a great one today for your audience.
It is going to be great. And what are your, so how do we find you like on Instagram? What is your?
Yeah, Instagram, you can find me at Together CFO, or one word, at Together CFO. On Twitter, it's my name, Casey Chohan, just the two letters, KC, and then CHOHAN. The full name again on LinkedIn. The company's also on LinkedIn. So you can type in Together CFO anywhere on Google, and it'll come up, or Casey Chohan, and you'll easily be able to find me, or the website itself, which is togethercfo.com.
Nice. I love it. And I always just like everyone to, I know a lot of people give like this long laundry list as they introduce people, but I feel like it sounds nicer coming from you. And I like to have all the stuff at the top of the show notes because, some people will watch, 2, 3, 4 minutes of a podcast and read the show notes and then decide if they're going to watch. I at least want them to know where they can find you if they don't listen and watch all of it. But I mean, honestly, who would not want to watch the two of us? So people need to stay in and be a part of it because this is what's happening. All right.
That's
so
exactly right.
It is exactly right. Now, I love the fact that you talk about taxes because I know, because I teach and coach a lot of new real estate investors, and they're always asking me tax questions. I'm like, listen, I'm not your girl. I can't give you any tax advice. I can't tell you what kind of LLC. I can't tell you any of that stuff because I don't know enough to teach you. I have a person. You need to find a person. So this would be great because you can help us, unfold some of the mysteries about the taxes. And then I'll say people like, hey, go check out Casey if you like them. You need to work with them because it is like it's great for real estate, but it's a whole different animal just by itself, regardless of what you do for a living, taxing and saving money and all the stuff. It's this whole entire entity.
Oh, 100%. It can get really complex, and especially here with America, the rules are very different. It follows you around the world anywhere you go. So you kind of set up a structure that really takes care of you and your family in the most efficient way possible, unless you actually like paying taxes. Now, I've not met many people that like paying taxes.
None of us do. And
Yeah,
you hear
exactly.
people say like, "Oh, the rich people, they don't pay as much in taxes." It's like, no, the rich people or the people that have more hire somebody to help them to save and not have to pay on every single solitary thing.
That's exactly right. So when you look at the tax code itself, all it says is that you have to pay your fair share. So, what is your fair share compared to the billionaires that are all paying single digit tax rates? When their tax returns got leaked in ProPublica a few years back, it showed that they were in the low single digit tax rates as a net tax rate, which is ridiculous to some people, but honestly, they're just using the structures out there that are available. There's one level for loopholes, which pretty much everyone should be using. Things like cost segregations, hub zones, opportunity zones. Like there's so many different things to do that everyone can do. But then when you start making that serious amount of money, you kind of run out of loopholes, and that's really where structures supersede loopholes, and that's really where we come in.
Yeah, I told you I'm in my little downtown Clinton, Iowa apartment. My husband is from here, and this little downtown, it's 3 blocks wide and 3 blocks deep. It's right on the Mississippi River. So you have 3 blocks and 3 blocks. So this little area, they're doing like a bring back the downtown, but it's 100% opportunity zone. So if you keep them for 10 years, there's no capital gains. And so we ended up getting a total of 28 parcels of land here, and they're giving us grants and money for facades and money for things. And it's an opportunity zone. So then people are like, what does that mean? I was like, well, it's just an area that, they're whoever made the decision, maybe you can tell us, whoever made the decision to make an opportunity zone and trying to get people to invest there and bring up the values of those properties. They're that
Yeah,
area.
the way I would phrase it is that the tax code is written for the government to incentivize certain activities. So in this example, it is to redevelop this particular spot of land. In other opportunities, they wanted people to buy vehicles, so they let you accelerate depreciation of vehicles over £6,000. So the government's always coming up with new and not wonderful, but new loopholes that phase in, and then other loopholes phase out at the same time. And it can be problematic as well because a couple of years back, I'm sure you had some clients that were doing conservation easements. Now they came out with a whole set of rules about these easements, which were really beneficial for a lot of people, but too many people abused it, and then they ended up changing the rules and auditing a bunch of people. So it's not to say that loopholes can be risky if you push it too far, but that's where, again, structures, when you build a structure, you mentioned capital gains there. Yes, in certain situations, you can defer capital gains with a 1031, or if you're doing an opportunity zone or get like some special relief, you can defer it. But there's a lot of parameters and things that you have to meet. If you have the right structure, using the foundation as an example, you can totally eliminate capital gains tax.
Mm-hmm.
So in the right type of structure, you can get your effective tax rate down to 1.39%, which is very similar to all these billionaires because they're doing it in the right structure rather than the traditional LLCs, S Corps, and C Corps that people use.
So if someone is let's just say we're going to talk about in the real estate investing scene. Someone is in the real estate investing and they are the first thing like, oh, I've got to get an LLC, I've got to get this, everyone spends like 6 months. I need an LLC, I need a website, I need this, I need this, I need that. And I'm like, You just need to start. And then you need to hire someone to help you manage whatever money you're making so that you start off with good habits. So for someone that might be listening today that's really new, maybe they're buying like their first property. What is something they need to know or look out for that they wouldn't know if they're just, a regular person that's like, hey, I'm going to buy a house and fix it up and keep it and turn it into a rental. Like,
Yeah. So
what
we
are
can
some basic
use
tips?
a scenario. So the first one that I use in everyday life is I don't let anything paralyze me getting stuff done, because there's so many things that you could put in your own way. Like you mentioned, hey, I need an LLC, I need a website, I need a new office stamp or whatever it is. You can make these things up and you can get in your own way so quickly. That's not going to achieve anything. I always have a list of these are my 3 objectives for the day. If buying some real estate is one of them, then I'm going to be making a hell of a lot of calls to find a good deal, to underwrite it and get it closed, right?
Yeah.
So get out of your own way is always the first thing, because you could go clean your office or your house 10 million times and still get nothing done because you've just put something in your way that's not significant. So that's the first one. Then
Yeah,
the second
honestly,
one,
telling people to get out of their own way it that is such good advice because people are like paralyzed by the fear and making them say, what if, what if, what if, what if? It's like, yeah, but what if it works? Like, let's just go with that. Let's start on that side.
well, that's the whole point of having a mentor like yourself, right? Is you surround yourself with people that have been there and done that several times over.
Mhm.
It's not their first rodeo. They know what they're doing. They're not nervous at the transaction because it's a walk in the park for them. They're experts in that field, right? If you're doing it on your own, you don't have a team, that's where you start getting nervous and you start double guessing yourself and the doubt creeps in. But if you've got the right team around you, whether that's real estate team, whether that's tax team, whether that's operations team, it doesn't matter the team. You got the right people around you, then that's going to help you accelerate a lot quicker.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay, so that's first piece. Get out of your own way. What else should
Yeah,
people look out for?
get the right team, get the right mentor around you. That's essential, right? Because if you're guided in the wrong direction, you can easily make some mistakes, right? If you're trying to figure it out yourself for the first time, you could underwrite a deal pretty horribly and lose everything very quickly. Versus if you hire the right mentors and the right team around you, you get to use their decades of experience and you're more likely to hit a home run than if you're doing it on your own.
No.
Then the third one is depending on the level at which you're at in terms of net income and how much you want to spend and what scenario it is, look into a private foundation. This is one of the most underused structures, and people think it's only for the billionaires. It's not. It's for the regular millionaires, accredited investors as well. You can use this type of structure. It not only protects your assets because it's not in your name, so you don't have a
Mhm.
huge target on your back. It creates legacy because your children and future generations can take that over completely probate free, and it gets you down, if done correctly, to a 1.39% tax rate. Also, just a sprinkling, a cherry on the top, if you're buying all cash, you can eliminate sales tax. No, sorry, the property tax. You can eliminate property tax. So there's so many benefits to be had if you use a private foundation. You're helping grow your legacy and protect
Mhm.
your assets. And really, that's what we help people do is, hey, you know what an LLC does. Yes,
Yep.
Wyoming, Nevada, Delaware
Hey, yeah.
LLCs. You know, everybody knows that, or most people know that. S Corps, probably not the best structure for real estate. And then C Corps, unless you're doing the syndication, probably not the best, right?
Yeah,
So
not.
it's pretty simple when you're beginning. People are going to usually push you towards an LLC.
Yep.
But what I would say is do some extra research and see if a private foundation is actually a better fit for you, because there's no capital gains in that. So even if you were to flip it, or if it's a long-term hold, or if it's just a rental, you can go on paying such little tax firstly, and then no capital gains on the flip side. So there's a lot of benefits, in my opinion, for the right type of person. Again, it's not for everyone, but if you're a accredited investor or higher, then it's something you should definitely look into.
So, what is your ideal client? Because it doesn't sound like your ideal client is someone starting off on their first deal. So, for them to be able to come to you and say, "Okay, Casey, I'm ready for you. I've been over here. I've had my little CPA, and now I'm ready to move up into the big leagues." What would someone need to come and say, "I want to work with you"? Where do they
So
have to
first,
be in the food chain?
yeah, yeah. Firstly, they don't have to switch CPAs. We play really well with other CPAs and other
Okay.
advisors. So it's not a mandatory requirement that they have to switch their relationship over, but they do have to be paying over $200,000 a year in taxes, or expect to be paying over that much in taxes. And that's really where going through the complexity of creating something like a foundation
Yeah,
makes sense. Because if you're paying 50,000, 20,000 in tax, there's enough loopholes that you can use for free without having to go for the Rolls Royce of structures, right? You
that's
can
right.
get by. So it's depending on what level you're at, but generally speaking, 200,000 in taxes plus starts to make sense to look into a foundation.
So then the person opens the foundation. So I have
Yep.
the Wonderful Family Foundation, and then that is how it all gets passed down through probate and down, 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 down.
No, there's no probate. That's the beauty about this. So with the probate, you're actually taking a risk that you could lose a lot of that wealth to the
Oh, a lot.
system or pay taxes on that. But with the foundation, it's already written out. So let's say that you would be the chairperson of
Mm-hmm.
your foundation, and then your husband would take over upon your demise, and then your children or nieces and nephews or whoever you wish would take over next. It's just passing over control of the entity.
To the next
The
person.
entity, yeah, is always owning all of the assets. So the foundation will always own the real estate apartments, half of Mississippi that you own, right? That would be owned by the foundation. But the person controlling the foundation would be whoever you designate.
I like that. I like that. I guess I don't know enough about private foundations. I'm feeling like I should have been doing this a decade ago.
Definitely at your level, you should have been, yes.
Okay, well, that's okay. It's never too late to change.
Exactly, and that's the beauty about it, is that there's so much information out there at all times. So don't want to get over paralyzed, but definitely look at the pros and cons of, hey, if we were to move this 20 odd parcels that you bought into a foundation, how would it work? Well, firstly, you'd get a tax deduction because that's a donation. So on your personal taxes, that would go down. Then the asset would be in the foundation, and any passive income that you're making on that would be taxed at 1.39%. If you were to flip any of those parcels, 0% capital gains.
So
So there's a
nice.
lot of benefits.
There are
And
a
you
lot
don't
of
have,
benefits. And
yeah,
I guess I don't know enough about it. I've never really sat down and thought about it, but it's like, I feel like we should already be in this.
and you don't have to wait 10 years to defer that capital gains tax. It's instant.
Yes. 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 Okay. So super good that I met you today because I clearly need to step up my game.
Well, that's
I've
what we're
got
here
three
for.
kids and I've got like, four grandkids at this point. And I'm like, and my husband's like, oh, our kids and then our grandkids. I'm like, yeah, but what if grandkids don't want to take it over? And, it's like, we need to have like more things in place because I don't want to work all the years I'm working to build up all this wealth. And then the kids are like, oh yeah, let's just go party on Mimi's dime. you know?
But, well, that's what happens when we look at family offices. They do a lot of surveys on the elite families, and they see by the third generation it usually gets squandered. So the
Yeah.
first generation makes the wealth. The second generation sometimes helps or sometimes kind of keeps it stable, but the third generation, the grandkids, usually squander it all because they're too far away and they've only seen the good times,
Yeah.
but they don't really have the work ethic or kind of the traits that the initial person that created the wealth has, because it hasn't been passed down correctly through
Yeah.
the generation. So that's another good thing about foundations. It's all about legacy. So you should be doing at least an annual retreat with the family to talk about the portfolio, the investments, the community good. What are you doing to better yourselves as a family, as a community, for charity? But generally speaking, those are the times where you're transferring your perspective and your knowledge to the future generations. So that's what the likes of the Rockefellers do and the Rothschilds do
Oh
all
yeah,
very
yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah.
compared to the Vanderbilts, which were also a very wealthy family, but they squandered their money
They did.
on all sorts of meaningless stuff to the point at which they're now not an elite family
Yeah,
anymore.
no, I was reading about that really recently, and I knew it, but like I had forgot about it, and I was like, yeah, like they're nothing, they're broken, the Rockefellers are like doing all this stuff. So Bill and I'm from Ohio, and he's from here in Iowa. So we were raised in very blue collar, like my parents like worked at factories, and his dad was like a paint contractor, like very blue collar. And out of his entire side of his family and my entire side of my family, we're the first two that became millionaires. So I said, okay. So now that we're older, I'm like, why didn't my dad or my grandfather or my great grandfather, why didn't somebody start something? And on Bill's side too, like, why didn't no one start? I'm like, okay, so we're the first ones, we're the top of the food chain. I said, so we have a chance to be the beginning step for generational wealth. But I told Bill, I said, listen, our kids will work for it because they work with us now. But I'm like, I tell you what, those grandkids don't. I said, I'm just going to make everything get sold. I mean, give every dollar to charities. Ain't no grandkids going to be living off my money. They're going to be working for it. So
But that's what happens. You're totally right, because the grandkids get the benefit of the hard work that you and Bill have put in and that your
yeah,
kids have put in. But then, we have this notion, and I've just become a father recently, is that you always want the next generation to have it easier than you had it.
yeah, we do.
And then if you've got the means to do that, why wouldn't you do that? But then there's a fine balance between, I don't want them to be spoilt little brats or trust fund babies. I want them to have the drive, the determination, the intelligence to go succeed themselves. But if you're giving them everything on the silver platter, you're taking away giving them or building in that determination into them.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's
you're
a
right. Our kids, we didn't give our kids anything. We bought them school clothes at the beginning of the year, and they had to work for everything, every single thing. You want to go to a concert, the ticket's $85, you got to work for it. So we made our kids, even still, we made our kids work for every little thing. Now, my grandkids are 3, 4, 8, and 9. So all of them, even the 3-year-old, I make them work when they want something. I just had them here in Iowa in this apartment for like 30 days. It's like, oh my God. I forgot. I was like, by the time they left, I'm like, oh my God, I'm dead. But I made them work for everything. They were cleaning, they were outside, they were helping my husband carry paint buckets around. Like they work. And then when they work, I let them shop and spend their money. So they're learning, but they're little. But I just said, we're not going to do that with our kids. I mean, we bought them cars when they graduated high school. We probably did some things that, nobody ever did for us. I'm like, we'll give them a little bit. But we did make them work hard because I've always heard that by the time you get to the grandkids, nobody's got any work ethic anymore. And we have that
yeah.
like, really hardcore Midwest work ethic where you work and you don't show up and you don't call in sick and, you work. And so I think we were able to instill, and our kids are all millennials, and millennials are like, you're probably a millennial, so I'm sorry. They're like the laziest, they're like the laziest generation, but we didn't let our kids be that way. They had to work for every single thing. And they had dirt bikes and four-wheelers and things, and it's like, hey, that thing costs $8,000. I'll put up 4. You got to work for 4. And they worked, like hard work. So my kids are
But
not
that's important, right? I
spoiled that
really think,
way.
yeah, I think it's really important, because then when they get the item, let's call it the dirt bike, they value it so much more
Oh,
because they put $4,000 worth of blood, sweat, and tears into getting that. And they're like, no, I don't want to break it. Or if I break it, I'm going to fix it, because they have
they
more
do.
pride in it rather
They
than, here you
do.
go, there's your dirt bike. And then they break it and then they leave it to one side to be forgotten, right? Until the
They
next thing
do.
comes along.
They had to work for everything. Are you enjoying this episode? Make sure you don't miss a single solitary episode. Click subscribe, like, follow, all the things so you'll get notifications whenever time a new show comes out. And let your friends know about it too. It's amazing. All right, so if you want to learn more about real estate investing, just reach out to dwanderful.com. I'll send you some free stuff. Back to the show. My little grandkid, the oldest one, the 9, she got in the habit of like buying things and then just like, tossing it aside. So this summer I was like, you know what, honey, anything you want, you got to work for. And I'll give you $5 an hour. So she helped me do moving. She helped clean out some buildings, a bunch of stuff. And everything she bought with her money, she put things in a safe. She put things in a room, in a closet, so the other kids couldn't touch it. And it was really amazing just to see the difference of what she bought versus what was given to her at the beginning of the summer. So I'm like, all right, making them work hard does give them a little bit more. The item is that more valuable because it's their money.
100%. I definitely, I see that and I read that all the time in a lot of these studies. UBS was the latest bank that did this type of study within their family office, which is the highest level within those banks because they only deal with high net worth, 25 million plus. They, they do such deep studies on all of the psychology of what goes on and how to grow the wealth. So it's not, you get to a point where you go from being rich to being wealthy. And the main difference that people don't really get is being rich is working really hard and making money. Being wealthy is when your money is making money while you sleep.
That's it.
So real estate does that fantastically. You can have a plot of land or an apartment or anything in between, and you can be off on vacation in Iowa or Idaho or wherever you would like to go on vacation, and it can be making money for you.
I would never vacation in Iowa. This is a really cute. It's like a little Hallmark town that just sort of like got left. Like building, half of it was boarded up, and now they have music every week, and they block off the streets, and they have all these street parties, and we help do a lot of that. And just recently, we found out that the property values down here have gone up 40% since we started investing. So it's like,
That's really good.
okay. I'm like, all right, we're making our little like teeny weeny little Manhattan city out here in the Midwest. But we actually live in Colorado and Florida. So now, switch topics for a minute. What's your favorite band of all time?
Favorite band of all time? Oh, I'm gonna go back to my English roots and go with Oasis.
Oh, Oasis.
Yeah, I don't know
I
if many Americans will
I don't
know of
know if I
Oasis.
know Oasis.
So their most famous song is a song called Wonderwall.
I'll have to listen to them. Hardly anyone ever. I'm like a music junkie. Hardly anyone ever stumps me on a band. And if I don't know it, I listen to it after the show so I can like get the
All
vibe
right,
of the music.
Oasis Wonderwall. That's the track to listen to.
Okay, I'm going to listen to it today and text you
All
and
right,
tell you about it. I love it when I hear a band that I've never heard of before. So that's
put
like,
me
so if
on
you're
the
from
spot there. That's a
England,
good one. That. Yeah. I'm born
yeah.
and raised in England. My background is in accounting and finance. I worked for a big Fortune 500 company for 8 years. I worked my way up the ranks from making cups of tea like you do in England. And then after 4 years, I was running the European region of finance. And then I transferred over to the North American region. And that's how I ended up here in LA and haven't looked back since. So I did another 4 years while I was in America and then started my own business. So it was time then. So pretty much follow the American dream as they call it.
It is. And that's the thing I tell people. It's like, I don't really care what you get into, like, in with what you do or real estate, or if you want to, I don't know, make shampoo. I think it's just the point of working for yourself. Even though there's more stress working for yourself, there's so much more, for me, there's so much more pleasure in knowing I did it and I make the decisions and I don't have to have someone tell me what to do. So I
Well, you
encourage everyone,
control
like,
your own you
work for
control your own
yourself.
destiny.
You
Yeah,
control your own
100%.
destiny.
Yeah, I was a corporate guy for a long time and I thought, I would just shoot around the whole globe with this company, which was fantastic to me. But I quickly realized that I was a very small cog in a $4 billion web, and that I didn't feel significance at all. And
Yeah.
then when I started my own company, it was tough because you got to learn a lot of different skills. Like I've got a finance background. What do I know about sales or marketing or anything like that? But I figured it out, right? You got to persevere and you got to get through it got to surround yourself with the right people. Just like we've been talking about, is that I didn't have any sales or marketing experience, so I went and hired it
Yep.
because I need to fill the voids of where I'm weaker. And then got a few clients and scaled the company. And ultimately, the way we pivoted into the tax structures was we helped a client scale his business. So he went from 5 million a year to 120 million a year in the space of 6 months through our
Nice.
CFO services. We analyzed what was working, and it was great timing, but it was also a good strategy, and he executed it really well. That then created a huge tax problem for him because
Oh
now
yeah.
paying taxes on 120 million is a different ball game than 5 million. So we then researched and figured out what the elites were all doing, and it's so weird because all the billionaires and all the mega millionaires all have this private foundation. It's a very specific type of structure, which is a private, non-operating family foundation. It's a subset of a subset of a subset. So you got to go 4 deep in order to get the right one. It's not as simple as picking an LLC or an S corp,
Yep.
unfortunately. So when you figure that out and you see the trends and you're like, oh, why do all the billionaires have this one specific subset? You then realize that's the most powerful one where you can control everything but own nothing. And that's the key.
Exactly. That's the key. So when you were deciding to branch off and start your own business, what do you think was like your biggest fear initially?
Well, for me, it was how am I going to make money? Because I've gone from a very comfortable multi six figure corporate salary to zero because it's like, holy smokes, this is just me now. I'm really in the real world here.
Ah,
So the way I mitigated that was before I'd actually left, I knew I was leaving, so I prepared for that. So I'd already started pitching my services, started the website, started all those things were up and
okay.
running before day one, before I actually put in my notice, so that I was able to have some revenue when I left. And then I backed myself. You really have to have the confidence to back yourself to know that, hey, I'm doing this for my own vision, doing this for the next steps. And it's not always a smooth ride. Mine definitely wasn't because I got the first few clients, but then it plateaued. And then, with CFO services, it's so difficult because you can say to someone or ask 100 people, what is CFO services? And you'll get 100 different answers because it's not a generic, oh, it's this and this. So if you're a CFO in a real estate company, you're looking at number of transactions and all these types of things.
Yeah.
Analytics are there. But if you're a CFO of a big Fortune 500 company, you're writing financial summaries to your shareholders, which is a sentence or two at a time about, like, as an example, when I left FlowServe, my portion of the business was a $300 million sub business within the
Wow.
$4 billion cog. So even though it seems significant, it's so small compared to $4 billion.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
when there was a discrepancy in, hey, we're up, we're down on this line item because of this, it didn't even go into the board summary because it was just a rounding error at that point, which is crazy to think, right?
It is. It
So
is.
I'm spending all these hours drilling into all this analytics and data and explaining what's going on, only for it not to be really recognized at all because it's a rounding error. And it's like, you know what? It's time for me to move on. And I just needed to tool up because I didn't have the skill. Like, I was really good with numbers and really good at being able to explain complex financial scenarios into layman's terms so that
Mhm.
anyone can understand them. And that's really what I took that skill set and built a business around it until we pivoted into the tax savings because we saw an opportunity to be able to help more people that didn't have access to a family office. So for those people who don't know what a family office is, a lot of the elites and a lot of the billionaires all have a family office. And if you think about, let's say, a financial advisor is a simple one, or a CPA is a simple
Right.
professional, they usually have their own book of business, whether that's hundreds or thousands of clients that they're dealing with at any one time or throughout the year. Well, if you're in a family office, you have that same level of individual, usually better, but they are only dedicated to you as a single family. So now think about that. Had, if you could pick up the phone or walk down the corridor and speak to your financial advisor whenever you want, and all he is doing every single hour of his working day is focusing on the family's portfolio, do you think you would get a better outcome compared to the guy that's got 1,000 other clients
Oh,
battling for
heck
his
yeah.
time? And that's ultimately what a family office is, but within all the departments, whether that's insurance, whether that's HR, whether that's recruitment, finance, CPA, like real estate is a big one as well. We've seen more and more real estate legs or expertise coming into family offices. But it's expensive, right? So if you look at, hey, if this financial advisor would be making roughly $1 million a year in his own business, but we want to hire him just to focus on our family,
Yeah.
you've got to compensate him a little bit more because he's taking more risk with one client than he would with 1,000
Oh, heck
clients.
yeah.
So having a family office can often cost more than $5-10 million a year just for the right staff, because again, it's about the right team, right? If you have the right team working with you, you're going to make better decisions. You're going to move faster. You're going to make more money. And then if we're talking about millions and not thousands, you're going to make more millions a lot more quicker. It's going to compound
Heck yeah.
compared to trial and error the old fashioned way, right?
Oh yeah, no, my whole first decade was all trial and error. And I was like, oh, I wish I would have had someone to like help me show me the ropes, which is why I like to teach other people, because I just the mistakes, I mean the money, it's just like, oh. But now it's like, okay, now I know. I don't know everything, but I know enough to like, make other people millionaires too. So I always love to hear the story, like when you made that step, because I still feel like even though we're both really successful in what we do, that first step is hard.
It's really hard. So
The backup, like the backup is gone.
some of the things that helped me a lot through that process was personal development. So I used to listen a lot to Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki,
Me
Jim
too.
Rohn. Like a lot of these people, I would literally sit in my cubicle at the office and have my headphones in, working on my spreadsheets, and subconsciously just taking it all in. And you need to have that belief, because you'll never take that step otherwise. We were talking earlier about paralyzing yourself and kind of putting
Oh, yeah.
insignificant steps in the way. That's all due to lack of personal development, because if you are focused on what the goal is and what you're trying to achieve, you can achieve that. But
Mhm.
you need to get yourself out the way, and that's all comes from within. So if you've got a higher level of self awareness and personal development, you can definitely use that as a solid foundation to
Yep.
then build on.
That's what I tell people. I said, I feel like a lot of people like us that start their own businesses, I think you just have to have a higher risk factor, because it is still risky. Even if you plan everything and you have everything done, nothing ever works exactly like it's planned anyway. So I feel like, well, we have to have a little bit higher. So I tell people, hey, listen, if your risk factor is 0, you probably shouldn't start your own business. If your risk factor is 10, like mine, it's like you just jump off the building and you grow your wings on the way down.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. Is that I was speaking to one of my colleagues yesterday, and he's like, his brother is a lawyer, and he's just settled the biggest case that he's had, and now he's thinking about starting his own practice, but he's so uncertain on how much he'll make in his first year, going from being an executive to then being on your own. And it's like, look, the simple thing is, if he's not built for that risk, just don't do it,
Don't
because
do it.
you'll just phase yourself out and you'll stress yourself out, and you won't succeed because you'll be too worried about what if, rather than taking the action and doing it and then refining it and getting better along the way.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say. Okay, so I want to ask you a question. So I asked you about your music, which I'm excited to listen to Oasis. What's your favorite food? What do you like to eat?
Oh, that's simple. Steak. I
Oh,
love a good T-bone
me
steak with
too.
some
Me too.
French fries, peppercorn sauce, side of Dijon mustard, and a little bit of horseradish as well.
That's So good. That sounds so good. So next time I come to LA, we're gonna go out to eat. We're gonna go listen to some Oasis. We're gonna eat some steak, and I feel like you can tell a lot about people by their music and what they eat and what they like to do.
Well,
And
then we're going to have some drinks, smoke some cigars, and find some real estate too, right?
that's it. I'll smoke some cigars. I'll
Yeah,
have drinks too. I was just out there. We stayed at the Fairmont Hotel.
it's
Um,
right next to my house.
yeah, we stayed there. My son-in-law is like the manager or something. So we got to stay there for just 2 months ago for 9 days. And it was like, oh, so bougie. So fun.
That's
So
amazing.
much amazing.
It's one of the newest hotels here. It's a beautiful 5-star resort right in the middle of town.
It
The
is.
mall's on one side and Beverly Hills is literally on the other side.
That
So
was
it's a
great.
great
We ate down at
location.
the restaurant every night. It was like, oh, I'm definitely a
The,
five-star
the
star kind of girl.
we had the French bistro. Is it still there? The French restaurant in the hotel?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. No, we
Yeah.
ate there twice. It's like, oh, it was so good. I'm like, I'm definitely a five-star. I'm a bougie girl. And so it was really nice. It was really nice. Okay,
Well,
so
the
now
spa is really nice at that
the
hotel as well. I don't know if you
spa's
had.
great. We got everything. We have, I mean, Gregory's like the manager, so we got so many things comped, like just champagne and strawberries and chocolate and just all kinds of stuff. But getting delivered to our room just all day and night, and was like, I could totally just live right here, right
Go,
here.
Gregory. Good son-in-law. We like that.
That's right. Now, what's your biggest goal for you personally, Casey? What's your biggest goal that you are trying to accomplish right now? And how can the wonderful family help you reach your biggest next goal?
The biggest goal is to develop a city from scratch.
To develop a city from scratch. Oh man, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so we want to put together a full city that it's not one of these green hugging type cities, but it's just a city that helps everyone, right? So here in LA, just south of LA, there's a place called Orange County. I don't know if you're
Yep.
familiar with it.
Oh yeah.
So it used to just be orange trees. And literally, my vision is very similar to that, is to take a plot of land and develop it into an ecosystem that can then live on for generations after me.
I love that goal. What a great goal. Now, how can we help you do that?
Because we're gonna start with a plot of land, right, and some financing. You need billions of dollars to do this. This is not
Right. That's a
millions.
good
So,
goal. I'm putting it
but
out
it's a
there in
long
the
term
universe
goal.
with you. A
Yeah,
city from scratch. What a
100%.
great idea. When it's
Yeah,
time for
we've
you to
got
do that, I want to be part of your plan.
100%. I'll hit you up for sure.
I love it. I'm rehabbing a city right now, so our own little town. It's a lot of
Yeah,
work. These buildings are all like 1900s and 1920, excuse me, 20. Yeah, they're old. And so we're like restoring them back instead of
yeah,
just,
that's character, right? Because
oh,
America's such a young country. To have some character like that is really good. The
we
reason
are
I
a young
wanted to
country.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to develop my own city is I just don't like a lot of the practices going on here, especially with the government and what they do to our food supply and what they're teaching our kids in school. So
Oh,
if we can build our own city, we can go farm to table with really good food. We can make sure we have clean water. We can make sure we have great schools for the kids and really build a lasting legacy that will surpass me by many generations and decades to come.
and when you're ready for that, I want to be part of it. I want to be,
100%.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I was like, why did it get so dark all of a sudden? I think the sun just went behind the clouds and I forgot to turn my light on behind me. All right. So thank you, first of all, for being on the show. I love your heart. I love hearing your story about how you started. I love all of that. And I love your goals that to build a city from scratch. Like, how much fun is that going to be? That's going
It's
to be like a
amazing.
great project.
Another thing that people often do is they're limited by their lack of vision.
Oh, please.
So if you can only see 2 steps in front of you, they're likely not going to be big enough steps. If you can see 100 steps in front of you, or at least put that vision out there and just take the risk and put it into the universe, then you
Yes.
can attract it.
That's it. That's it. Even like in this little town, we started spending so much money. People, are like, why are you putting all that money in that old town? That town's all run down. It's like, yeah, but if you can see it booming and bustling, like that's what we see. So that's what we're going to make happen. So, all right. So, again, I want to thank you for being on, and everyone, you can go to, together. I'm sorry. I blanked for a second because I wrote everything in like, abbreviations, togethercfo.com.
Yep, that's right.
And they opt in, and you'll send them something, welcome to the team, and get them some information. And
yeah, we've actually got a really good tax savings calculator on the website. So you can go straight onto the website, plug in your numbers, and you can see how much you could save on taxes. So that's a good one to try out.
that is good. I'm going to do that. I like to opt into all the things from all the people because I like to stay up and see what everybody is doing. And again, so folks, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. If you enjoyed the show today, if you laughed, if you learned just anything at all, I want you to subscribe to my podcast. Also to subscribe to your podcast, and yours is called
The CEO Story.
The CEO Story. Subscribe to both because podcasts are a lot of work. And leave me a 5-star review and write something. Tell me how amazing we all are. And don't forget to go to dwanderful.com and opt in to get some free stuff. Okay, very last thing, Casey. So I want you to leave us a parting word of wisdom, but just one single word.
Grateful.
Okay, so everyone that listens to me regularly, they all know that we take the word grateful and put on a little sticky and put it on our mirror. And the word of the week is grateful. So we're all grateful. We use grateful. We think about being grateful. But what does it mean to you?
Every single second of every single day, I'm always grateful for the smallest things and the bigger things. Because if you can't appreciate the small things, then you're never going to get significance because you're not going to hit the big things all the time. So the small things such as waking up and being healthy, being able to drink water, eating food, like we take that for granted, but there's so much turmoil and misery and war going on in the world that we kind of see on the TV or the news, but are really not paying it as much attention as we should.
Yeah.
So just to be grateful for living our own lives and being here in America is fantastic, and not being in other parts of the world because it could be a lot worse. And if you're grateful and you live in gratitude, you'll attract that to you as well.
Amen. I love what grateful means to you. It's about what it means to me as well. All right, so everybody, we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And remember that the truth is in the red letters. Casey, thank you again. Goodbye, everybody. We will be back next week. Ciao. You just had a taste of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. So just one more thing before you go. If you laughed, if you learned something, please leave a 5-star review. Don't be a gatekeeper. Share it with everyone that you know. And I'll see you back here next week for the most wonderful real estate podcast ever.